Hi there, this is Justin Krane, certified financial planner professional and founder of Krane Financial Solutions. Welcome to Money You Got This. So how can you really live? How? By uniting your business money, your personal money with your life and your business. Word up.
Krane Financial is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only, and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products.
Hey everyone, welcome to Money You Got This. This show is brought to you by Krane Financial Solutions. I'm Justin Krane. I'm a certified financial planner professional. I offer investment management services and do financial planning and also some fractional CFO work for business owners. I'm the author of the book, Money You Got This. I'm psyched you're listening to the show. I want to give you this free report, 3 things multimillionaires do to grow their wealth. Just go to coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. That's coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. Thanks. Today, we've got a really special guest. He's probably like 21 times smarter than I am, maybe 22. We don't even know. His name is Mitch Russo. So Mitch, welcome to the show. And then I'm going to introduce you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Justin. It's great to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah. So who is Mitch? Mitch helps authors, speakers, coaches, and trainers to transition their skills and knowledge into a marketing and profit machine. His book, Powered Tribes, is a blueprint for creating profitable certification programs that will create a new sales force for you while being paid to do so. He's written other books, and we'll get into that as well. But Mitch has been nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year and built 8-figure companies. That's right, 2 of them, 8-figure companies. That's twice. And he built the #1 software company in the time billing and accounting to $10 million in sales. He's also the CEO of Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes Business Breakthrough International, and grew that from 5 million to 25 million in sales. All right, that's the intro. Mitch, welcome.
Thanks, Justin.
So you're still in the trenches doing stuff, and you've had massive success. You're in Florida. You're done, but you're not done. So what's going on with that?
You know, I kept thinking at different points in my life that I was done. When I sold Timeslips Corporation, I figured, okay, well, I guess this is what financial freedom kind of looks like. I was only 44 years old at the time, and then I retired. It was a long retirement that lasted 5 weeks, I think, maybe 6. At that point, my wife said, will you get the hell out of this house? I don't care where you go, just get out of here. And I said, okay, maybe I'm not retired. And that's when I started helping other companies. Actually, people were coming to me and saying, Mitch, you just did what we're trying to do. How did you do it? Teach me how. Mm-hmm. So really, my professional coaching life started at the age of 44, and that's like 23 years ago. So what I've been doing ever since, on and off, is coaching businesses to rapidly expand, but not just like the average. Look, I think business coaching is essential, but what I do is very specialized. And you mentioned it in the intro. I'm really working on 2 or 3 main things right now. One of them is building certification programs, and the other is helping people transition from speaking careers and writing careers into cash profitable businesses selling content and scaling. Well, that's, again, the 2 things I do, and there's flavors of that as well. But the most exciting thing I'm doing right now is publishing software again, this time for coaches. And it's a SaaS platform that any coach can come up to speed in 12 minutes and coach their clients and save 30 minutes per session on admin and up-level the results of their work.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to hear all about that. So let's go back to when you're in your 40s.
Yep.
Did you have this vision to just be done, and then you realized that it just was boring? Was this the bright shiny object, like a pot of gold, and then you would just be done and you could do what you want?
Yeah. In fact, after the first tranche of money came in, the first 5 million came through, and my wife and I went to have dinner that night, and we were wandering around the mall, and I said to her, you could have anything you want. In fact, I'll buy you the whole store. I don't care. Just tell me what you want. And she said, well, you go first. What do you want? And the two of us wandered through this mall for 3 hours and we didn't buy a thing. And it was this realization for me that, you know what? All I truly wanted was the security of knowing that I would be safe, that my family would be safe. I didn't, sure, maybe I'd buy a watch or, or upgrade to another car at some, and I did those things, but those were not the things that I really had my goals set. But here's the big problem, Justin. The problem was that all of my goals ended when that sale took place. And then finally, 2 years later, after the earnout, and I had all the money I was going to make from that transaction, I truly was lost and depressed. And listen, I get it. If you're listening to this, you say, give me a break, save your sob story for somebody else. You're now wealthy and you're depressed. That's your problem, sucker. But the bottom line is that I think if all you have all your life is this one goal, your whole professional 20-year plus life, which was short, I mean, it's only 44 at the time, and you achieve it, then what? And that's when my true self-exploration process began.
I have all these questions ready for you.
Good.
But like everything that you basically said, this is a show about money, life, and business. So I'm going to interject a lot, intertwine them. Let's talk about financial security, right?
Yep.
And it's such an important thing. And you had it. And then after you felt like you had it, you were like, okay, now I have that, but what's my purpose? What do I want to do? And to me, just looking at what you've done and hearing, it seems like you had your second phase of growth in your life.
Yeah.
Once you made the money,
right.
It wasn't until you made the money, then you could do the next thing for you. And a lot of people think that financial security is like once you have it, you're done, but you're really not. It's this mental marker and you're not done. So when you're working with businesses that want to scale, whether it's coaches with software or I mean, you wrote a book, The Invisible Breakthroughs, and I mean, you wrote that. Let me just quell a little bit about Mitch. 2015, you wrote that before COVID. Before COVID, you wrote that book, how to work virtually and all that. And basically everyone had to do that in 2020, 2021 with COVID.
Right.
But you've done so much with that book. And then, with the Tony Robbins Business Breakthrough, I mean, you did so much. So as you're working with business owners, their end game to a certain extent is that financial security.
Right.
And they want to get there, but for some reason they can't. And you're helping them solve it, not financially, right? That's more people like me, but you're helping them with advice. So if business owners can Google all of the stuff, why are they not able to do it without systems like you have?
Okay, it's a great question. If you don't mind, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, which might be of interest. And here's what I want to go back to. When I said I was happy that I had made the money, now I was afraid of losing the money. So now I watched as other friends had sold their companies for maybe 10 times or 50 times what I did and are literally broke now or was at the time. So I thought that my first goal would be, okay, don't lose it. And I started to I had bad experiences with financial advisors several times. And it wasn't like they were not smart people. They were very smart people, but they just kept making ridiculous mistakes. And, oh, well, your investments were whipsawed. And now anyway. So what I decided to do at that point was, you know what? I don't understand the financial system. I'm going to go back to school and learn how to trade. And I didn't want to learn how to trade stocks. I want to learn how to trade options because of leverage. And so I went back, I spent 2 years in school. Then I hired a mentor from the Chicago Board of Option Exchange, who was the floor trader for an index, to train me after I graduated from that school. That's when I started understanding money at a much different level. That's when I understood things like velocity and theta and how the financial systems work and where money is safe and where it isn't. And what it really comes down to is, if you think that you can make money and hand it to somebody else and not understand what they're doing and be safe, you're wrong. If you hire Justin, make sure that Justin spends time with you and explains what he's doing so that you understand it and go, okay, now that confidence in Justin only grows because I understand what is happening to my money. That's the mistake. I didn't do that. And that's why I had to feel like I had to go back and do that. Okay, now to answer your question. One of the things that I had discovered the hard way, because I didn't have a business coach. They weren't really business coaches. That's how old I am, Justin. There really weren't business coaches when I started. I had a lawyer. He was smart and I liked him and he liked me and we would chat. I had a CFO, a part-time CFO, and, he had value, but not across all topics and subjects. So when I finally met somebody who asked me for help, one of the things I realized is that I was spending all this time and they had spent their money to get me to help them, but they weren't executing. So I needed to find ways to figure out how I can get them to execute. And what I discovered, and this was a system I refined over decades, is I have put together a way of accountability and goal tracking that I frankly have never seen before. And I started using that almost 15 years ago. And I've been refining it ever since. And now all of those tools are built into Clientfolio, which is the coaching platform that I'm now offering to coaches. But with accountability and goal tracking, as long as it's easy to do, people will do it. And by the way, I have a rule when I work with a client, and at the end of every session, they get a detailed homework message, email. We call it the client report. They get a detailed client report of everything we spoke about, of all of their homework, all the to-do items on their list. And that during that session, we have updated all of their stats on all of the goals we're tracking, and they have answered all of their accountability questions. And we have set up next week's accountability questions too. So please understand that this isn't like, oh, so how'd you do last week? Oh, that's great. No, we get to work. Okay, what was your sales last week? Great. What was your profits last week? Great. And then we just go through the list of stats and we record them inside of Clientfolio, which then presents them in graphic format on their client report, showing them their progress week to week to week to week. Without that, nothing happens.
So, I mean, I'm so curious about accountability. I mean, I think, I don't know, a lot of the clients that work with me, they hire me because they want me to hold them accountable to what they want, for their financial life. Mm-hmm. And that's such a key thing. Let's talk about the connection, the intersection between accountability and progress. I would think that and let me spin it with this question, because let's bring in your certification, that program. Yep. I think that's really cool. So let's say someone is a business owner, and a lot of business owners listening are probably thinking, I have no idea what the hell I could certify. I don't have any process. Sure. I got no content, and all that. And I know you can help them with that. But you take someone who's like, what am I going to do with certification? How am I going to do that? And then you're going to want to overlay that accountability aspect and show them the progress that they could make or that they have made, and the momentum along with that. So talk about your certification content in your program and how you bring in that accountability and progress for your audience.
Let me go back and say, my education is that of an electrical engineer. So I actually was an electrical engineer for several years before I moved on into sales and marketing. But as an engineer, when I went to school for engineering, Everything I learned has been obsolete for many decades at this point. But what engineering school taught me was systems-based thinking. And I had incredible mentors in Northeastern University and jobs that taught me how to think with systems. But here's the interesting thing. It's not something that you learn once. It's something that you must reinforce with everything that you do. Now, when I look at a business, if they don't have a system, I see the system. I visualize it in 3 dimensions, everything that they've doing, and can create the system for them, usually within a few hours on screen using mind maps. That's one of the things I do. I don't know, I think others do it too, but it's my gift in a sense. So when I look at a business and say, okay, tell me this, tell me that, and we map all this out, within 45 minutes to an hour, usually by the end of our first 2-hour session, I am showing them a business plan using mind maps of their entire business and all of the opportunities and all the levels of growth that they can achieve if they were willing to follow my lead. Now, there's basically 2 types. I know there's many types, but the way I break it down is that if I'm working with a client and I get feedback like, wow, we can't really do that, or really that's not for us. At that point, I asked them the question. The question is, okay, so do you not want to grow, or is this really just a matter of being afraid to and not unsure? And if they have any issues at all around growth, I bring in a mindset coach, because I learned long ago, I'm not a mindset coach, but others have a gift equal to mine or exceeding that when it comes to helping debug mindset and very rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
So just recently I took on a high-level client, multi-guy, 8-figure guy, doing great. And one of the first words out of his mouth is, who am I to be teaching this to older folks in the industry? I said, stop right there. Let me get Hallie involved. We're going to get her. You have a session with Hallie, and then we will restart. Mm-hmm. Because I immediately spotted the fact that this is a person who, and no matter how successful they're going to be, will never feel adequate teaching what they know to people older than them. And no matter what I say or you say, Justin, it's not going to matter. They're still not going to feel comfortable until they overcome this issue. So the mindset element of this is kind of important. The next step is, once I show them the master map of their entire business, all the possibilities I see it could have, then as we go forward, week after week, what we're doing is we're actually creating those systems live. We're doing them together, or I'm helping their team, and we are tracking to the detail exactly the progress they're making. So the rule is that if you didn't do your homework from last week, do not show up, but call first or text me. I don't care if it's 45 minutes before the session. You could still text me. I'm not going to charge you. I just don't want to waste your time or mine rehashing what I already did with you last week, because we didn't make any progress. So my viewpoint is that if you have a system that's relatively straightforward and someone is taking you through it, unless you have a mindset issue, unless you have a fear of success of some sort, you must be successful because the system's in place. So when I wrote The Invisible Organization, which you referred to earlier, all I did was basically outline, expand, and blueprint the systems we use to grow the Tony Robbins organization to nearly 30 million in revenue. And all of the mindset issues of the CEO required to do that. That was a big, in fact, that was 1/3 of the book, was the mindset of the CEO.
That's so cool.
I mean,
yeah. That's awesome. You know what jazzes me up is I love learning. That's a funny coffee mug, probably whiskey.
Oh, right. Sorry about that.
No, but that's like, I love learning, and I love, I believe I can't see the hump on my own back. Most business owners can't, because they're they're in their own head, and they got to get out of their own way. So that really jazzes me up, and I love learning new things and new ways of thinking and all of that. That's awesome. We haven't spoken about power tribes and what those are, and what, just how you work with people that need to create them, because everyone wants to create a big following, and be seen as an influencer and a leader. So talk a little bit about Power Tribes.
So Power Tribes started in 1987. The process was, and this is something that I literally jumped off the cliff and built the parachute on the way down. I had no idea what I was doing. I ended up creating a test that I would then sell to my top clients who wanted to get it to become an expert in our time slip software. And my hidden motive was, once they passed the test, I now had a field where I could refer clients who were struggling to them instead of having to do the tech support myself. And if they wanted to, they could sort of charge for it. That was the goal. I made a lot of mistakes. I almost ended up with 60 lawsuits at the same time because of that, because I didn't do it right. So I basically shut down the system. I refunded everybody's money. I then solved all the problems these folks who were not quite certified created. And I went back and I redid the whole program based on 60 interviews with unhappy clients, painstaking multi-hour emotional interviews, of which cost me tens of thousands of dollars to unravel the problems that these people had solved. But I had learned, that was like getting another master's degree in both psychology and business ethics, because that's one of the things I discovered, is that the people we were working with had none of either an understanding of psychology or true business ethics. That's when I realized what I had been missing. Sure, we had the technical side down. That was no problem. I was missing culture. I had not created culture in the first program, but I spent a lot of time figuring out how to do that. So again, remember my background. I'm a systems guy. I'm an engineer. Culture to me is not a touchy-feely thing you get when you walk in and go, ooh, the pretty blonde at the desk is smiling. Oh, that strong, handsome man over there is drinking coffee. I feel good here. That's what a lot of people think culture is. It's wrong. Culture is a scientific process based on a code of ethics combined with the values of the CEO, the values and the why of the CEO, and the code of ethics created by the company, of which everybody knows in advance before they even join. That is where you begin the creation of your culture. And that's what Power Tribes is about. It's about the mechanics of certification. It's about fleshing out the business model, which I talk quite a bit about. But more importantly, I spend time in the book talking about why and how a culture must be created if you ever want to have a company bigger than yourself and a few other helpers. So this becomes now the engine that drives. Now, that once we did that at Timeslips Corporation, we rapidly grew 350 certified consultants. They were my third largest sales force. They dropped $1 million in profits just from certification fees to the bottom line at the end of the second year. I mean, we had it down because we screwed it up, made the mistakes, and then, had to, so after I left, after I sold Timeslips, and after I started working with Chet and Tony and building business breakthroughs, I did my best to create the culture, although the culture was there before I got there. So I was mostly in repair mode at the time, but we got it to the point where we had a very strong culture. It was, some people say it was a cutthroat culture because, and in fact, it kind of was, and it was because it was performance-based. And people who speak of culture negatively means that they didn't fit. So the performance-based culture, which we created, was great for people who are creators, who are performers, who are high-level salespeople, who really, really wanted to excel. For those folks who aren't that good at excelling, they thought it was a cutthroat culture, and that's fine. I get it. So when we build this culture, it must be inclusive of the exact people you want to attract and repel the people you don't.
Yeah, you can't be everything to everyone. I have a hard time with that. Like, and to do that, to create that power tribe, you have to be a little bit more edgy, polarizing, all that stuff. It's hard for me. I see that being hard for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that, like, let's say that you need to get to a 9 or a 10. What I've seen with culture and your power tribes, like if I'm at a 5, if I could just get to a 7, for me, that's better than where I am. It's not
Yeah,
like I have to get to a 9 or a 10. But that's definitely, a work in progress for me. But I see what you're saying. And as long as it's in touch with my values and what I want, I feel more comfortable with it.
sure. Well,
So
we do culture repair too for companies. And we have we basically bring in an analytics tool and we measure the culture already there before we go about trying to fix it. And that's to many CEOs, that is a process. That process might blow their mind. They may not realize what they really have under the hood.
yeah, I bet. So a couple questions about you. So what do you do for the first hour in the morning? Like you wake up, what's your morning routine?
I wake up, I have a probiotic that I drink right after I wake up. And then I turn down the air conditioning because it was too cold for me to, I was sleeping. And then I go and sit down and I meditate. I meditate for every morning, same exact time, same amount of time. I use an app. I use Muse. I don't know if you know what Muse is.
Mm-hmm.
So I use Muse and I meditate every morning. And then from there, I check to see if there's any fires I need to put out. I check email and such. And usually at that point, 3 days a week, I work with a personal trainer. The other days I walk the beach. That's one of my favorite types of exercise. Is I walk from where my condo is down to the pier in Pompano Beach and back on the sand. And it's hard.
Yeah.
And then I clean up and I'm ready to start work at 11 a.m.
Nice. And my next question, I do a lot of retirement plans for clients, and a lot of them, they don't see themselves retiring cold turkey, but they want to know that they have the option to do that. And I've been in the business almost 30 years, which is crazy, but it is. I've started with some of them and they're now not cold turkey retiring. They're working part-time and they're not necessarily doing it for the money. They're just doing it to stay engaged. And of course,
Right.
the money doesn't hurt. It helps. They don't have to take as much from their portfolio and they can pay
Right.
for more of their expenses and all of that. I'm just curious, for someone like you, you've pretty much done it all and you're still doing stuff. Like
Well,
you're still building, creating, and growing. And that's awesome. And I'd like you to talk about that.
so I told you about what happened when I sold the company and I had this pot of money and then felt like I was going to retire, but wait a minute, I couldn't because I was too bored. So I went through a period of self-discovery all over again. And what I started to realize was that once you make a certain amount of money where you feel like you're now safe, there's two things that might happen to you. One is you might say, well, okay, now let's use this 10 million that I just made to make another 100 million. And if that's now your mission, then go off and knock yourself out. That was not my mission. I want to be clear. What my mission was at that point, because I started reflecting on what it was that really lit me up. And it took a while, but I figured out what really lit me up was helping others.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is the prime thing that we are here to do. And sooner or later, everybody listening to this will realize that that's why they're here. This stuff about having to eat and sleep in the house and all that gets in the way. You kind of got to take care of that. You got to make money so you can still do that for as long as you're around. But for the most part, what the true purpose of what I believe most human beings is to help others. And the more people you help, the better you feel. You might call it a selfish act. Now, it's funny. I help others because I'm selfish. Why? Because I love feeling good. Why do I feel good? Because I'm helping others. So the other part that happened, and this came later, after I started getting back into business and starting to do things where I had a bigger role and could contribute, like you, as you mentioned with Tony Robbins, at around the age of 60, I had a realization, and it was interesting. I was operating on the financial values of my parents all throughout this time until, whereas my dad was he grew up during the Great Depression, and his viewpoint was that nothing was enough. But at 60, I realized I had enough.
Mm-hmm.
But something amazing happened when that happened. Once I realized, wait a minute, I have enough. No, I don't have a Gulfstream G4 or a fifth house or even a second house. I have enough. And then this feeling of peace came over to me because I truly realized that in my meditation one morning, it was like, I have enough.
Mm-hmm.
And in this moment of me understanding that, this feeling of needing to have more, which was natural for me and impulsive in many ways, disappeared. And here's the weird thing that happened next.
Hold on. I know what you're going to say. I'm going to guess. I could be wrong, but who cares? Let's give it a shot. When you realized that you had enough and that you really wanted to continue helping others, you probably grew major, and a lot more came in without any, like, I need this. It just kind of happened organically.
Right. And then I later learned that this is the mechanism of the universe. The universe brings to you what you focus on the most, and not what you think as much as what you feel. So when you feel appreciation, then the universe is bringing you more things to appreciate. When you feel like I don't have enough and I need to get more, the universe is bringing you the feeling of not having enough and all that goes with that. So if you think you don't have enough now, sit through a stock market crash and then tell me how you feel, because that's what the universe brought you when you kept saying, I don't have enough. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, but this was for me. And Justin, you got it. It's once you open up those floodgates, then at that time, my financial life accelerated further. My spiritual life accelerated further. My relationships accelerated. And I became more of a whole human being than I ever had before.
That is so cool. You have to write about that.
Yeah, it'd be a short book, but yeah.
That's fine. That's great. Well, we've talked about so much, and I want everyone to go to your site or where they can get more info to work with you and any of your companies. So what's the best place that people can go?
MitchRusso.com. That's it.
RUSSO.
Right. MITCHRUSSO.com. That's it. That's all they got to do. Or they can go to MitchRusso360.com and have access to all my social media, all my books, all of my photography, my SaaS platform for coaches. It's all there too.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mitch. It was great. I enjoyed connecting with you, and I hope everyone did. Have a question? Want to get in touch with us? Need some help and advice with your finances? Just go to coolmoneyshow.com and reach out to us. That's coolmoneyshow.com.
Krane Financial Solutions is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products. No investment decision should be made based solely on any information provided herein. We do not provide legal, accounting, or tax services. We recommend that all investors seek out the services of competent professionals in any of the aforementioned areas. Certain information provided has been obtained from third-party sources that we believe reliable. However, it's not been independently verified and is not guaranteed.